Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Siege of Dunkirk. This time with the German division Festung Dünkirchen, the German word for Dunkirk, and its lovely new double Kurik banner. And it's really cool formation. So yeah, let's have a look. The DLC is still work in progress, so things still might change in the setup, the cost of these units, but most of it should be relatively close to its finished product. The DLC still might take a bit, as they're still working on especially the dubs and all the voice lines for the Czechoslovaks, as they are still in the making. But as soon as those are out, the DLC should be relatively close to finishing and coming out. So within the next couple of weeks, most likely, unless something goes wrong with the voice acting, but we hope that is not the case. So let's go into Festung Dünkirchen. As you can see, a lot of infantry here, a lot of support, a lot of anti-air, and a lot of artillery. Not so many tanks. Decent anti-tank, really low air as well. So yeah, quite an interesting division. Really a lot of cool tools, relatively similar to a division that was in a formation that was in a similar position with the Toulon formation. And yeah, let's go. And let's jump into the recon tab, where you have the BMWs, the Aufklärer, the Spähtruppen, the Fusiliers. All pretty classic. Aufklärers also don't have any fancy transports outside of tractions, which will be here for the Axis side as well. You get 12 of those. Spähtrupp, which can come in traction, that could be potentially somewhat nice, and the Leftly with an MG, but that is a pretty bad vehicle, especially for 10 points, as it only goes 60 kilometers. Yeah, traction could be interesting with the Spähtrupp with the MG34, Fusiliers, and then a really good unit, the Kriegsmarine Jagdkommando, 30 points, TNT, double MG34, so basically pioneers with radio and optics, and more MG34 or Panzer Grenadiers with TNT, or like, yeah, it's a decent unit. It has decent firepower on long range. On CQC, it can throw TNT, and it has radio, so pretty strong unit. You get 2 cards, availability decent as well with 369. DMA, obviously not fantastic, but not terrible. 70 kmh on the road. And then we go to the infantry tab, where, as you can see, you have a lot of choices from 15 to 35 point infantry. We start with the Kriegsmarine Landesschützen, which are a decent 15 point unit. 10 men, EFM 24, the Kakano, disheartened, 12 and 24. So yeah, decent availability. Not quite as good as the units we saw in the Czechoslovaks, the French FFA unit there, that had the FM MG as well for 15 points, as they also had anti-tank grenades and they weren't disheartened. But this thing still is a decent unit for 15 points. Having an MG, or an automatic rifle in this case, for 15 point units with 10 hit points, absolutely fine. Luftwaffe Jäger, pretty decent as well. 9 hit points. They have an SMG though, so that's the payoff there. But they have lower availability in B and C phase. They have the same availability in A phase though. So yeah, a decent-ish unit, not great though. Ersatztruppen out there as well. Better availability, but way lower firepower, so I don't quite see them being the unit of choice. Then another 15 point unit, so quite a couple of options there on that price range. This one being a 15 point TNT unit, but with shitty SMGs, but with a Panzerfaust. 5 points, and can come in Kubels and DMAs. No traction for this. If this would come in tractions, it would be absolutely insane. Without tractions, it's not that fantastic, but it still, with its TNT, can be solid. Like, I would say this is still an absolutely worthwhile unit to take, as you also have the slots here. And then we go into the 20 point part, where we start with the Festungsgrenadiers, which are pretty close to the Kriegsmarine Landesschützen, only that they have different bolt action rifles with the level, and they have the FM 24/29 as well, and they have 5 hit points more. So you pay 5 points for 5 hit points, which I would say is a decent trade. And these guys also have the really good availability, 1224, so you can spam a lot of these guys. And 15 hit point infantry that you can spam can be pretty helpful. So, cool unit here. Then you have your normal grenadiers with the best LMGs, but only 9 hit points. But for sure, a good bit more firepower. And the standard availability, I would go most likely with the normal Grenadier Panzerfaust, though, as the Panzerfaust can be quite helpful. Next 30-point infantry, as you can see, you really have a good couple of choices. This one, Kriegsmarine Infantry, with a worse LMG, still decent-ish with the LMG 0815. The availability here, mediocre, especially in B-phase. I don't know why it's not 18 there, but it's one of the weird 9, 15, 27. And then you have the MP28s, 2 of them, which at least gives you decent firepower in CQC, and you have 12 hit points, so you are somewhere in between. Like these 3 different 20-point infantries, for sure, quite interesting. And then you have a 4th one, which is also quite interesting, because it has the lowest hit points, while it's also being disheartened, and also having a medium LMG, but it has a Panzerschreck, and that's the Luftwaffe Flakkampfgruppen. And these are really interesting because they have a Panzerschreck for 20-point infantry, which is pretty powerful. 250-meter range destruction. For sure, quite capable. Decent availability as well, so nice mix in against armored formations. First of the many Panzerschreck units in this deck, as it gets quite a couple, as the Dünkirchen area had a lot of these Panzerschrecks laying around. Pioneers, Führers, classic. Grenadier Führer, absolute classic as well. Smoke versus TNT. Still not sure why the smoke ones are more expensive. That's always gonna be weird to me. Yeah, then Kriegsmarine Jagdpioniere is your flamethrower unit. Interesting size, sized with 8 hit points. Only 1 SMG on the flamer unit, obviously not ideal. But for 25 points, they do their job decently. They're not great by any stretch. They only come in DMAs. They only have 4 availability here. Like, that's just not a great unit, but they have the smoke utility tool, and they have a flamethrower, which gives you some flamethrower unit here. So, yeah, Kriegsmarine Jagdpionier, not amazing, but can do the job that it is supposed to do. Kriegsmarine Pionier, a unit that we already know, I believe from Toulon as well. Another Panzerschreck unit with TNT. Costs you 5 points more, doesn't have disheartened, and has TNT, but doesn't have an LMG compared to the Luftwaffe Flakkampftruppen. So, interesting choice here as well for your Panzerschreck unit. They come with 5, 10, 15, so they're also lower in availability. And then the Luftwaffe Flakkampftruppen, long name. While still the TNT is a nice tool though. So, interesting choice as well. Not sure if it would be my choice, but yeah, that is another one. And then we go to Luftwaffe Führer. Yeah, classic 25-point leader. Identical with the Grenadier Führer in loadout and availability. Pioniere, the absolute standard as well. TNT, 10 hit points. Okay-ish, not great. Kriegsmarine Führer, pretty cool. I always liked them because they're a leader of double MGs and radio and smoke. That's a pretty good utility leader. 30 points obviously is the big question mark if you want to have your leader for 30 points, but the double MG34 for sure helps out. And then we have another good firepower unit, a really good firepower unit to be honest, the Jagdkampfgruppe, which has Panzerschrecks as well. And they're basically jacked Panzerlehr, Panzergrenadier. They also have the MG42, 2 of those. They have G43s and 4 MP40s and 12 strength. So they cost you 5 points more than Panzergrenadier, so they are not cheap. But they bring the firepower, they bring the pain, and the Panzerschreck, great utility tool. So a pretty interesting, relatively strong unit with decent availability, 6, 12, 18. So decent availability curve on these guys as well. So Jagdkampf, absolutely interesting and powerful unit on top of all your cheap, pretty spammable stuff. So this infantry tab, yeah, has it all what you need. Has TNT, has flamethrowers, and so on. Like, nothing is really the best, but all is viable, and you can create the perfect infantry mix for yourself. For the tank tab, you can't quite say the same. You can't really mix much there. You have Panzer Force, and you have Stokes in A and B. Decent availability for tanks here. This division has tanks in good enough numbers to survive, and that's about it. Stokes 3 and Panzer 4H, both decent tanks, nothing fancy. Support tab, you get some decent units as well. Flammenwerfers here, can come in BMWs, can come in tractions. 50mm mortar, decent as well. A pretty solid discipline unit with the Kriegsmarine Küstenpolizei, which is a 15-point automatic rifle, 8 strength unit. Availability decentish as well for a discipline unit, and you can use them as you have a lot of disheartened units here, as you can see. So bringing these guys around actually could be worthwhile. The MG08, decent, not great. Here you have a bigger MG, 1250 meter range, MG34s, IG18s, all decentish. And then we come to the interesting part. The Erdkampflafette 43, a 20mm MG basically, which is quite interesting. You can put it in buildings. It has 1500 meter range on its HE shell, 1250 on its AP shell, with which it can still deal with enemy light vehicles, and then out of a hidden position like a house or so, or out of forest like this, can be pretty nice. These are quite interesting. They deal pretty solid damage, especially if the enemy gets close. On far ranges they still struggle to do so because their accuracy is pretty low, but yeah, this is a cool unit. The Erdkampflafette 43 can deal with a lot of targets and can be really helpful. Availability is decent as well, 4-8. So Erdkampflafette 43 really give this thing a choice. It's the most unique unit most likely in this deck. Absolutely new one, and a new kind of MG. Like, we don't have anything similar to this in the game at the moment, so this is quite cool. IG33, also really helpful, 2000 meter range HE, always nice to have, so cool unit to have here as well. And then your commanders, Traction, BMW, and Commandant, pretty standard as well. And the tank, you start with some small stuff, Panzerschrecks, Pak 36, you get a card of Martyr, only in A, but nice to have some more mobile armored vehicles around. That can be pretty useful. The tabs are not amazing in numbers, but still allow for some variety. Pak 38 here, good as well. Only A phase. Pak 40 a bit more flexible there, which is nice. 2 cuts of Pak 40s is basically the thing that you always want in the German deck as a baseline. That's so nice to have that here. And then you get a big boy. You get a Jagdpanther. And that's obviously really, really nice to have. So, yep, Jagdpanther, really, really helpful in dealing with bigger threats. Obviously, its own frontline were not amazing, but its gun is fantastic. And it comes with 2-star accuracy. So, yes, you only get one, but at least it's a really good one. So, Jagdpanther, fantastic. Anti-air? Fantastic as well, I would say. As you have all you need. You have small flags, you have Flak 43s, which are fantastic mid-sized flag. You have Bofors, which are also pretty good mid-sized flags. You have the Flak M31, but redone to be an 88mm instead of the standard Soviet 85mm, which allows it to use 88mm shells, which gives it 2000 meter range and 2000 meter AP as well, with decent penetration. So this, for 105 points, for 15 points less than the Flak 41, is actually quite comparable. It has a similar rate of fire, actually better rate of fire on the AP shell, and only 10 penetration less, 10mm penetration less, so actually a pretty good 2000 meter range anti-tank threat. And its anti-air, also decent. Like, its 88mm shell, obviously, does quite comparable things to what the Flak 41 does, and it does it cheaper. So, yeah, you can't take it with vertency. That's a bit of an issue, but only a smaller one. So still nice tool there. You also, if you want to go real big, have the Flak 38, which has its 205mm penetration on its AP shell, and also 12 rounds per minute there, which is nice. And obviously just a really, really big boom on the shells in general. Flak feeling obviously great as well. So a fantastic anti-air tab with a lot of slots as well. Really use them and use them dual purpose if you can, especially this thing, I would say. It has fewer crew, I believe, than the Flak. No, it also has even the same amount of crew. So yeah, this thing is fantastic. This, for 105 points, that is a fantastic weapon. Artillery tab, pretty cool new stuff as well. We see the French artillery gun that we saw with the Czechoslovaks, the new one as well, which is decent. 5 rounds per minute, 155mm. Not insane, but decent. 125 points also for decent. 2 off maps with relatively good calibers as well. Both below 200mm. Just barely so, but below 200mm. So you get 3 shots, which is nice. You get another new Czech gun. 76.5mm. Rapid fire, obviously. Yeah, it's 10 rounds per minute. Small boom, but a lot of fire going down range. It has a smoke shell, which is really helpful. So for 45 points, actually a great utility tool. Like for 45 points, being 15 points cheaper than mortars, this thing is quite amazing. It's not the most amazing damage dealer. It's not that accurate and all of that. So yeah, but with 10 rounds per minute, it still gets enough damage downrange to be worth all its points in a tab where you still have enough choices to fit in. So yeah, solid artillery tab. But then we go through the air tab, and obviously Festung Dünkirchen, being surrounded by enemies, not having its own airfield that would be operational, will struggle to get air forces in. Only long-range J-88s and those trying to help out, and then some water planes that can land in the harbor. And those are your recon. The Arado 196, which can be a bit of a makeshift fighter as well. Something that a lot of people forget about it. Especially nice if your enemy forgets about it. Is that this thing has 220mm in its wings. And that this thing actually can shred any kind of planes it gets behind. It only flies 300 km/h, so you want to have it out before the enemy plane comes in already. But as a recon plane, that's where it is anyways. And yeah, you can even fly head-on with a good couple of fighters, and 40 points, that's nice. On top of it being recon, it doesn't have the bombs here, but it still does the recon for you. And yeah, it can take on a couple of threats as well. Obviously, with the AA tab being as strong as it is, you don't need fighters too badly. The J-88 is another option here. For hunting bound bombers, it can't dogfight. It's super clumsy in the air, but it has good firepower, so that's something. So if you fight against a division with a lot of bombers, this thing can still hunt them down, especially after they're pinned down, or if the enemy fighters get pinned down by your anti-air, you can kill them off with this thing as well. And then the bombers are decent, but only coming in B and only coming in low numbers, so yeah, air really not the strong suit of this division, not where you're gonna have a good time at, but you still will be able to bring something here. So yeah, Festung Dünkirchen, this is it. Some cool new infantry with the Jagdkampf, with the Luftwaffe Flakkampftruppen, with the Kriegsmarine Jagdkommando, and especially with the Erdkampflafette. Some decent armored support, some great anti-air, including these new guns, some interesting artillery, including a couple new guns there as well. So in general, the amount of new toys in this DLC, if you combine both sides, is pretty high, actually. Like, the amount of new assets is quite high for Nemesis DLC, which is nice to see. That Fusion is still putting in the effort, and I'm really looking forward to see how these divisions play. And we will have a video of me playing one of these soon on the channel as well. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe down below and leave a like so that more people see this lovely DLC coming around, and let me know which of the two divisions you are looking forward to the most. With that said, I hope to see you next time. Bye bye and have a great day.